If you are a one-person video crew, a Jill or Jack of all trades, the Sony ZV E1 has a lot of features that will make you smile, but the price of this camera will make you frown. That is the main issue with my love-hate relationship with the Sony ZV E1. Let's start it off with some love. This is a super easy camera to film on, especially filming yourself. It's got the same sensor as the A7S III and the FX3 that will give you that excellent image quality and that crispiness that usually is reserved for the more expensive cinema cameras. So why did Sony decide to drop that nice sensor into something like this? Maybe they had a surplus of them, I don't know. It feels very Apple-ish to just drop the same chip in a different body, add some new software and call it a whole new thing. Whatever this Frankenstein camera is, it's definitely badass. Switching over to photos are also a blast, and last week I was easily able to get a client photos from an event with minimal effort. Literally me walking around the room a couple times, stuffing the camera in people's faces and clicking the button. I could always rely on that autofocus and the image quality is fantastic. Super compact and lightweight, making this very easy to carry around, stick it on mini tripods and such, stick it in weird places. It comes in very light at 1.6 pounds, although as soon as you put one of those nice E-mount lenses on it, that small form factor is destroyed and the whole package kind of gets a little top heavy and floppy. You got the variable LCD touchscreen on the back of the camera, which is super handy when you're filming yourself. I was able to easily monitor my shot with the Sony app and with its built-in wireless connectivity, which uses Wi-Fi 2.4. to connect your smartphone and transfer files via the creator's cloud app. There was also very little latency using the app. I was very impressed with that. You are stuck with lots of touchscreen use though, which can be a pain in the heat of the moment, having to press the screen constantly for what you want to track or flipping through the menus around for features. I was definitely missing having some more dials on this body. You've got a hot shoe mount on the top of the camera so you can use Sony's wireless microphones. And then when the hot shoe is not in use, you can use the little wind muffler that's included, and the onboard mic on this actually works pretty well. You can check out this video here where I use the ZV E1. No mics, I just ran the sound through a free AI noise reduction tool from Adobe. You can check out that great tool up here, and it all sounded really nice. But let's go through a few examples. I'll show you two little vids. No mic, just the EV1 and noise reduction software. One of the ways you can power the 150C is with a dual battery accessory that Aperture sells. That's about 180 bucks. Then each of the batteries goes from $100 to $300. But I got a better option right here. This is the Cat. It's pretty impressive, so maybe less external mics in the future. That'll be one less thing to worry about. The camera has a 3.5mm audio in and a headphone jack, which is nice. Lots of these smaller compact cameras leave you with no headphone jack, which is kind of like shooting photos with your eyes closed. There's also a USB-C port that supports power delivery and one SD card slot. Only one though, which is kind of a no-no for me. There's a micro HDMI port that, like always, is super easy to break. Another thing that I see breaking off easily are these little flimsy port covers. They are hard plastic and just waiting to be banged off when open. The camera is powered by the NP-FZ100 batteries, similar to those used on the FX30 and FX3, with a claimed battery life of 95 minutes. No battery charger is included. What the f***? So you really want to keep this USB-C port safe, because once again, you break that little port and your life is going to get a lot harder. I recommend getting a camera cage with wire locking ports if you do plan on using those ports a bunch. It helps with the longevity if you're gonna have this hooked up as a webcam, which is a cool feature. Just watch out for that overheating on long streaming sessions. The camera can record internally in 4K 60p and 10-bit 422, which goes a long way with why the footage looks so dang amazing. There's also a promised 120 frames per second mode coming in a future update So for the really slow-mo, that's coming soon. But as we all know, you can use AI now and a bunch of other apps to achieve that super slow-mo look with any footage. We are in magical times. Sony came out with a feature called Product Showcase for the ZV E1 back in 2020, and the ZV E1 has adopted that also. And I gotta say, I love this feature for my overhead camera unboxing shots where you can bring the product up closer to the lens and the autofocus system stays on the product. I did get some hunting a few times here and there, but this is a super useful feature for my fellow YouTubers. The ZV E1 has a 12 megapixel sensor, which gives it that super impressive low light performance, and you can jack up the ISO to 409,000. The camera features a built-in 5-axis image stabilization, and seriously folks, this image stabilization works so well. Handheld shots now look like gimbal shots, and there is a super heavy-duty stabilization format called active stabilization, which combines the IBIS and electronic image stabilization to stabilize your footage further, and the results were really impressive. So soon, no more heavy gimbals, just buttery smooth movement shots. Another interesting feature is the auto framing that I was definitely digging as a solo shooter, and I love that you were able to push out a clean HDMI signal while also internally recording the auto frame shots. So now you get two angles to go back and forth on, and if I set the auto framing speed to its slowest speed, it wasn't super monkey cam style. It was very usable. Looked like now I have a real camera person with kind of a wandering eye problem, but I just love all this AI trickery going on these days. Now this feature is not new technology or even a new idea, the whole cropping in camera to get you another angle. I remember Convergent Design's Apollo recorder had this, but what is new is that it's tracking you in camera and tracking you very well. And it's able to do that tracking because the autofocus system on these Sonys now is so on point. They have trained the camera to not only pick up humans and eyes, but animals, birds, planes, trains, and automobiles. I used to be an autofocus snob, but now it's just so good and reliable, I use it all the time. So now let's talk about the cons of this camera and why I'm such a hater. The biggest issue I have with this camera is the price. For what you're getting with all its heat trapping bits and bots, it just doesn't add up to me. The ZV E1 is almost $2,500. The sticker shock was just tough to get over, plus another good lens that will let you do all that fun auto framing stuff will set you back another $1,000 to $2,000. So this thing starts really adding up fast. I feel like this camera should be around $1,000, maybe $1,250-ish dollars, not over $2,000. That definitely feels like a money grab from Sony. It also just feels weird in your hands. The grip is relatively tiny, which might be uncomfortable for people with big hands. I was constantly banging my knuckles on the lens and also hitting the digital rocker zoom on accident, which you can turn off. I was just a fool and I had it turned on, and one time it definitely screwed me and zoomed in all the way without me realizing it. Peak Design has a new little finger loop system that is definitely what this camera needs. A knuckle loop or something like that to keep it strapped to your hand. Another killer of this camera is that it overheats really fast and has gotten a lot of reviews and tests done on how long it can shoot before that happens. I was using it at a gig for about 20 minutes outside in the sun. It was 80 degrees and the dang thing shut off. Now granted, I had it turned on to the max settings. Since it was a gig, I'm shooting 10-bit, 60p, the works, but still so embarrassing that it happened in front of the client. And fortunately, I had seen these problems popping up for other reviewers, so I brought the S5 along with me, and that was able to pick up the slack. It's got fans, no overheating issues. There is a heat cutoff level which you can set for high, but after that happened the first time, I was just very leery of this camera. Gerald Undone has done some full testing of how long it took till the overheating shutdown thing happens, but honestly, it sucks when you can't trust your tools, so that was a huge one. There are no fans or vent ports on this. Something every camera company has figured out to solve the overheating problem, so I do not know why Sony expected that to not happen with this. It's a very strange choice on Sony to sell a camera that they know will ambush you. Practically everything is touch base on the screen, which can be annoying at times. I personally like more dials on the camera. The ZV E1 only has one dial. So you definitely need to change your way of thinking when it's time to troubleshoot with this. I do enjoy the Sony menu system though, and it's pretty intuitive for anyone walking into Sony land for the first time. And if you're just shooting an auto, all those features on the screen won't mean much. So that's what I feel like this camera is built for, auto mode. You just set it and forget it. So I mentioned the camera only has one SD card slot, which is a big disappointment. And hopefully that one SD card doesn't fail on you. That is why I always like to shoot in dual record mode. I just don't trust any SD cards, ever. And let's end it with the most gimmicky of all gimmicks that was added to this, a 1990s era effect called cinematic vlog setting that will bake in these CinemaScope black bars in your 16:9 footage. I remember shooting stuff like this back in junior high on camcorders. They had the same little gimmick. And the first time you use it, yeah, it's cool. You feel like a little Stanley Kubrick. But after that first time, it's pretty much a one-trick pony. I don't recommend shooting on it. So a very interesting offering from Sony, small and compact with insanely good footage. If the price doesn't scare you away and you just need something easy to film yourself with, this could be a really great option for you. The less pitfalls we have to deal with as creators when it's go time, the more enjoyable making these videos is. But don't get me wrong, the Sony ZV E1 also comes with its own set of unique pitfalls, just like they all do. If you are wanting something with a little more camera-esque feel to it, check out that new Panasonic S5 Mark IIs. They're in the same price range. They offer a whole bunch of other professional options like full HDMI, fans to keep from overheating. The ZV-E1 kind of feels like Sony's little Frankenstein with the best components of all their flagships, but packed into this strange, weird body. If you need something a little more expensive, but still packing a lot of these same features and AI software, the just released ZV-1 Mark II just dropped this weekend and it's coming in at $900. So I hope you got some more info from a video photo person who has actively filmed 2 gigs with this camera and a couple YouTube videos. It is a super easy to use camera with great footage to match. I just wish it was cheaper. So thanks so much for watching, folks. If you could hit that subscribe button on the way out, I would appreciate that so immensely. And I hope to see you at the next one. Take care.